Hi, everybody. This is day 1382. Let's see if I'm on. We still do not have Richard's body. Richard is a Fort Bliss soldier, whistleblower that stood up against the criminal trafficking network there in El Paso, Texas, and was murdered. So, how can that happen? How can a soldier that's standing up for major crime be murdered, and then it takes almost 4 years for the family to get a notice of death? So I see that I'm on, and I'm burning midnight oil. Sorry, it couldn't be helped. Um, we've been working very hard behind the scenes, and it's also strawberry season. Strawberry season. I have this little beautiful patch of strawberries, and they had to be picked. They had to be picked, so it was a real blessing. Um, and Yeah, and then of course we're writing letters and letters and letters, and today was no exception. No exception, and it even had to be faxed out. Um, and so, once that takes root, our complaint that we made today, and we notified people of the complaint, and then we'll let you know. We'll let you know what that is all about, because the the criminal um, violations going on within the justice system. These few people that are in the justice system that are creating obstructions to justice within the justice system are the problem. Okay, they are the problem. And by obstructing justice, they are creating bigger and bigger criminal networks that are allowed to operate with impunity. Um, Absolutely. And that's why we have the trafficking problem. That's why it's not, you have 85,000 unaccounted for children, missing children from Fort Bliss. This is why you have the murders, that you have the kidnappings, that you have. There's so many murders on that border right now, and very, very gruesome murders. And it's because the justice system in El Paso is broken, is broken. And I'm calling on Governor Greg Abbott to act swiftly on this one, and also on Representative Veronica Escobar to act swiftly, because they are implicated in these crimes. They are implicated in the cause of all of these murders, of all of this harm done to El Pasoans. And I'm not just saying that. Um, it's because hard evidence, Governor Greg Abbott cause and is causing, for the lack of, because he absolutely knows what's happening. We've notified him what's happening, right? He knows what's going on in Richard's case, because we've had all these open records, and we've been working with Austin. So, and we've been working with Washington, D.C. So, absolutely, Representative Veronica Escobar absolutely knows that she's implicated in this, right? That she's implicated in creating these obstacles to justice by allowing these individuals to hold major offices in the judicial system in El Paso illegally. Illegally. And so that's really why Leilani Hart was, could operate with impunity, you know, and to even brag about it, to even parade her inside man, CID agent Tavita Nusa around and say, I have unauthorized access. I have access to records at the Fort Bliss CID office, and I can tamper with them. It wasn't us just pulling these accusations out of the air. This is hard reported evidence, even reported by multiple individuals to all the law enforcement authorities. Um, it is nothing new. It is nothing new. And of people, the fear that people have because they've seen what happened to Richard, they've seen what happened to Glendon Oakley Jr., right? They've seen what happened to Asia Graham. They've seen what happened to people that stand up to this evil, right? That want to report this evil, that want to do something about this evil. And we have more reports on that. And so they are shaking. When we got there, what was so obvious, even from our phone call with Captain, right? Captain Micah Yoshida, who has never really contacted us since. And we never met him. We never met him. And he was crying on the phone. He was crying on the phone. Okay? Because they already had known. And they already were working behind the scenes to cover this up because they did not want another Vanessa Guillen. You understand, all that mess with Vanessa Guillen was under the same leadership. The Gregory Morales was under the same leadership at essentially the same time this was going on. And they were getting blasted. They were losing their jobs, their cushy jobs. And they rather commit more crimes and cover up the murder of our son Richard than to lose their jobs. And in order to do that, they had, of course, people in place. They had people in place, certain people in place. And I can name it, Dirty Agent Marlon Soto, Dirty Agent Tavita Nusa, Dirty Clem Coward. Well, he's implicated in the murder of our son. Absolutely. Patrick Matlock, right? Command Sergeant Major Jake Jakovitz, Jay Paulin, the FBI Supervisory Director, Jesus, and his wife, Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr., right? And his wife, Cynthia Hernandez Nieto, in intelligence on Fort Bliss. They had Veronica Escobar in place, okay? Because she had something to lose. She had something to lose. And they had Mario Rascon Ortiz, okay, as the chief medical examiner, illegally in that position. And of course, they had Jaime Esparza. And, and I can go on and on. They had, of course, very dirty Lieutenant General. She was a Major General then. Now she's a Lieutenant General. They gave her a star for being criminal. Covering up the murder of our son. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind because we have the evidence. It's not like I'm just guessing. We have the hard evidence. We have the irregularities. We have the circumstantial evidence that all proves beyond a reasonable doubt. In my mind, beyond any doubt at all. Because, of course, I know Richard. And when you have the likes of Bob Moore and El Paso Matters, who are under investigation, have multiple IRS violations of their 501c3 tax-free status, for acting like political attack dogs, for misrepresenting the facts, or keeping, or retaliating against whistleblowers with unreliable sources, like Leilani Hart, the mother of Richard's platoon leader, that's acting with impunity, tampering with files in the CID office. And that was corroborated by her husband, James Courtney Hart. And let me tell you, they have reports on her. It's very dirty. I mean, she's not the only one reporting. I mean, think about her reporting. She's reporting on her family that they're engaged in incest, that they're engaged in child abuse, that they're engaged in child pornography, that they're engaged in raping a 7-year-old in her master bedroom, multiple members of the family, and she's failing to even report it. That's what she's reporting on. And where is the now Bill Hicks or Veronica Escobar or Governor Greg Abbott, or, those that are in the law enforcement that should protect El Pasoans from this kind of criminal activity? And if they would have protected El Pasoans and those on Fort Bliss, because there's dual jurisdiction, then Richard would have had a barracks that he would have wanted to live in. It wouldn't have been full of blow and a marketplace for illegal drugs, and he wouldn't have witnessed the trafficking, and he would be alive today. But he saw the criminal activity, and he reported it. And he reported it to Child Protective Services. So you know that he was reporting on abuses to children. Something that Leilani Hart failed to report. Failed to timely report, I should say, because she did end up 2 years later reporting it to the FBI. We have the FBI case number. 7-year-old being raped. Richard was not going to look the other way. He wasn't going to shake in his boots. He was going to stand up to them. And he was murdered for that. Absolutely. And then you have the likes of Bob Moore of El Paso Matters that have, they're up to no good. Absolutely up to no good, to try to twist the minds and the narrative of El Pasoans so that the criminals can continue with their criminal activity and profit off of it. And we're just not going to stand and let that happen, because how he has reported on Richard lately, since Richard since we were given the file, the casualty file, and the notice of death for Richard, and he reported misrepresentations, lying, he's just such a liar. He's such a liar. And one of the things that he said about me is that we didn't have evidence, that I had allegations without evidence. No, we have evidence, and we have been, day in and day out, providing all the law enforcement agencies and government institutions with the evidence. Sorting through it, writing the letters, doing the work that our law enforcement, that our judicial system should be doing. identifying the crime, documenting the crime, and prosecuting the crime. And I might be giving too much information out right now. So what you really need to know is wherever you are, you better know who your chief medical examiner and your medical examiner's office, who is running your medical examiner's office. That is so important. Are they legal? Did they meet the qualifications? How are they handling the corpses? How are they handling the capital murder cases? How are they is your county prosecuting capital murder cases to their full extent to prevent the crime from exploding in your area? That's something you need to know, because that is what El Pasoans are up against. The crime exploding in their area. There's so many murders. And they're being charged for the crime double, triple, quadruple. And what do I mean by that? Because their chief medical examiner is illegal. We have it that he's illegally in the country. He's not even an American citizen, which violates the Texas Constitution requirement for judicial office holders, which is that they have to be an American citizen. And we have it that and we have the hard evidence, and it looks like to me, but I wish that the judicial system would look at it. I wish that Veronica Escobar, who allowed him to hold that office, she was the county judge at the time. It was County Judge Veronica Escobar in 2014 that allowed Mario A. Rascon Ortiz to become the El Paso chief medical examiner illegally. And do not tell me that Judge Veronica Escobar did not know that if you hold a judicial office, that you had to be an American citizen. And do not tell me that the well-educated judge and now U.S. Representative Veronica Escobar did not know that that was a requirement by the Texas Constitution, that the medical examiner is a judicial office holder. No judge, that the medical examiner is a judge that can call for a jury, that can call for an inquest, that can issue subpoenas and warrants, that determine the cause and manner of death in capital murder cases, that is the primary witness for capital murder cases for the cause and manner of death. They have to be, by Texas Constitution qualification standards, by law, by Texas Constitution law, have to be an American citizen. And she knew that. And she's playing games, criminal games, with the lives of the people she says she cares about and represents. And most of these murders and most of this trafficking are women, and are huge portion of them are Hispanic women. She doesn't care about Hispanic women. And a huge part are children. She doesn't care about children. And she sits on these committees and she talks fake. She's a fake, and she's a criminal. And she needs to act immediately to withdraw, take down whatever Mario Rascon Ortiz. He cannot be in that position. He cannot be allowed to touch a corpse, to handle a corpse, to do forensic analysis on our El Pasoans or those that are serving in the military there on Fort Bliss, those that come over and shop at Walmart and get shot and killed. And he's the one that handled all of those victims that were killed at the Walmart mass shooting. Every one of these cases is now botched. It's a quagmire. It's terrible. It's an obstruction of justice that is so egregious. And that was, of course, caused by Mario Rascon Ortiz, but also the oversight judge, Veronica Escobar. She needs to act now. And so does Governor Abbott and the AG office. However, whoever has the authority to say, you know what, we need to have him arrested. I thought that Governor Abbott cared about the border. Well, these border crimes are allowed to continue with the trafficking, with impunity. And this Walmart case is allowed 5 years to be stalled, to go nowhere. Which means that anytime you want to orchestrate a mass shooting to influence an election, to be political, to influence the people in your district and kill 23 people, 24 people. I count Richard in there, 25 people, because I count Glennon Oakley Jr. as part of the victims of the Walmart shooting. And then have the fall guy have to sit 5 years in isolation across from the courthouse without any movement forward to justice. And I'm talking about Patrick Crusius. Without any movement forward. He's supposed to be at the Alcatraz of the Rockies. No, where's he in isolation right there in El Paso? Costing the El Pasoans their taxpayers' money. They are quadruple victims of the incompetence and the evil criminality of Veronica Escobar, Rascon Ortiz, Mario Rascon Ortiz, and Bill Hicks. And, of course, Governor Greg Abbott. Because Governor Greg Abbott appointed Bill Hicks. He appointed him. And they absolutely know that he is also a usurper. I think that's the best word. He's a usurper. He illegally took that position and is holding that position illegally because he did not execute his oath of office or sign his statement of officer properly. He did not do it. Why? Because he was, in my opinion, he had conflicts of interest because he was representing till he was, illegally sworn in. This judge has to be questioned too that swore him in. Because did she just ask him, oh, did you sign your statement of officer, your anti-bribery? Did he lie to her? Did he lie to a judicial officer? These are all questions because absolutely we have the hard evidence and we submitted that in an amicus. You can call it an amicus brief. People were trying to split hairs on that. We called it an amicus notice. But we submitted this amicus brief with the proof that Bill Hicks cannot be party to the SB4 federal case because he is not legally the district attorney for the 34th Judicial District. And so every case he touches, he's causing more and more problems for El Pasoans, which is going to cost more and more taxpayer funds, which is going to cost more and more crime, which is going to cause more and more deaths, hurt people, which is going to prevent the progression of that great city of El Paso forward. And really violate their freedoms. Because the judicial system in El Paso is broken. It took almost 4 years to get a notice of death for Richard, which we knew all along, which we had a whistleblower for. Not just any whistleblower. We had more. We had more. We had so many officials that absolutely said that Richard was dead. And for the tampering to go on, for the intimidation to go on, for the retaliation to go on, the only way that can happen is if the judicial system in El Paso is broken. Where, the prosecuting office was used for the criminals and made El Pasoans and the people of Texas pay for it. Pay for the criminal activities to be covered up or to be stalled in these cases, to allow them to do their trafficking criminal network with impunity. That's what's going on. And that's why there was the ability to have 85,000 children just go missing from the emergency intake center on the unsecure footprint of Fort Bliss. And if any of them died, God help them. And did they die? We don't know what's going on in that medical examiner's office. We hear all kinds of horror stories about, all this money making on organ trafficking. So you got organ trafficking going on. You have child sex trafficking going on. You have human trafficking going on, which is about women and sex trafficking. Then you have all this weapon trafficking, and I would include a new little category to say ammunition trafficking, because the ammunition trafficking is huge truckloads, because no weapon is good unless you've got the ammunition, right? And those brown tip bullets, they're not traceable. And we have the information, the intel, saying that they were found at the Walmart mass shooting. The casings for the brown tip bullets were used at the Walmart mass shooting. Those are special operation bullets because they're not registered. And they, what weapon you're supposed to use those with? M4s. M4s. The short barrel M4s that are used for urban warfare, that are military. Those are what the military use. And that's what Glendon Oakley Jr. saw on that day in the mall on the 3rd of August, 2019, the Walmart mass shooting. And in April 8th, 2020, He was found dead in the barracks on Fort Bliss, just a couple months before Richard was murdered. What a mess. And Richard just told us, and he was crying out. And the way he was crying out, of course, was, and I wish I would have seen it way before he was murdered, but he was crying out with the videos of, "I'd rather burn my money than spend it on whores and blow." And I want to say this, a personal message to parents. Be very, very careful to listen to everything and read between the lines of what your young adult children are telling you. Because he was absolutely, now I didn't see that, but he was absolutely saying it's very bad. It is so bad I don't even want to stay. I don't want to stay in the military. And he was tough. He's a black belt. He was tough. And he had a good character. And he stood on that, and he's proved that character to everybody. He's a saint. Because he stood up for what is right and good in this world. And he was murdered for it. And that's absolutely clear by what? Me just being a mom? No. Of all the evidence. Because you see, this is what Bob Moore fails to tell in his fake news El Paso Matters, that is spewing garbage, trying to hijack our son's death story, our son's picture. And he's spewing garbage about it, garbage about our fam. It's just garbage. Why? Because he is party to the case. He is party to the cover-up. He is party to the interference. Richard, number one, has no legal problems. Everything was resolved. Richard has zero criminal record. Zero. Unlike Leilani Hart and others. And many others in this. And he has no criminal record, not because I said so, but because Interpol says so. Because FBI says so. If you go and look at the FBI data bank, criminal data bank, you will not find Richard. In Interpol, he was a yellow notice. So we knew that he was murdered because he was a yellow notice. Because if he was out there, he would be a red notice. Why? Because even with a clean record and everywhere else, he would be considered a deserter. And deserter is a federal crime. And that would be a red notice. But he wasn't a red notice. He was a yellow notice. The whole time. He was never a red notice. He was always a yellow notice. And we know that CID was tampering because we just were confirmed in this casualty report that it was CID that was working with Interpol that provided the fake picture. The picture that had Dallas Hart's image superimposed on top of it, that when you did forensic, it matched Dallas's face, not Richard's face. And they used that for Richard's missing person yellow notice, which obstructed, really it lied to Interpol, right? Which is so criminal because they depend on those pictures to do their facial recognition, right? You walk through a checkpoint, you do facial recognition. So they knew that Richard was not alive. They weren't looking for Richard because they gave a picture that would absolutely guarantee that they couldn't match Richard's image with him at any checkpoint because the facial recognition wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. And they weren't wanting any other medical examiner to identify Richard's remains if they are found, because they also use facial recognition with the identification of bodies that they find. And from what we know from SEMAFO is that Mario Rascon Ortiz double dips. He's the chief medical examiner for El Paso illegally, and put there. It seems like Veronica Escobar, as a judge, looked the other way. She had oversight, and yet she looked the other way. Maybe she was looking too much in her mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Well, it's not Veronica Escobar. She brings a lot of ugliness to El Paso. A lot of ugliness. And she looked the other way. And if he's handling corpses, because there is this common denominator of the mortuary affairs, the funeral homes, that, with these people that are involved in Richard's case. And when I say that, I'm talking about the Walmart mass shooting case. I guess they want mayhem. I guess they want death and destruction because they make money off of dead people. It's just I'm just thinking about a business plan. If you make money with funerals and mortuary affairs and who knows what you do in the medical examiner's office when you have an illegal person there, what are you doing there? How did those remains get handled? Because we know that Richard's remains were not honored. They were not handled properly. They were dishonored. And that there was a lot of shaking, a lot of crying. What would cause the shaking and the crying? What would cause the fear? Something very horrible. What they did to Richard is very horrible. And it's because they have certain people in these very prominent places, positions, and one of them is the medical examiner, one of them is the DA's office. The DA's office is totally broken right now. They are totally broken. And that Governor Abbott does not address this because he is the one that appointed Bill Hicks. And his Secretary of State is in big trouble because they tampered with the timestamps. And they didn't even do it right. It's still a mess. It's still a mess. Because, the thing about lies is that you have to see all the facets to get it right, right? If you're going to lie, you have to cover all your bases. Well, they didn't. They didn't. And we have the hard evidence. So not only do we have the hard evidence that Mario Rascon Ortiz is holding the chief medical examiner's office there in El Paso illegally, but we have that Bill Hicks is a usurper of the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office also, illegally. And the two people that really need to do something quick about this is Governor Greg Abbott and Representative Veronica Escobar, because this is their mess. This is their mess. I'm going to answer some of your questions now. Hi, Anicia. Thank you so much for your prayers and your love. The military should not be able to investigate their deaths on bases. The only time the state would do an investigation is if the military requests them to, and of course they would not. Well, not. I wish I had an answer, but there's dual jurisdiction. And it's kind of like the Patrick Crucius case. From what we understand, they absolutely have. And Yvonne Rosales we have it confirmed that Yvonne Rosales was looking into Richard's case. So that would be a dual jurisdiction. And you see that with Patrick Crucius. There's a state case and there's a federal case. And that's why these and we need to have oversight. And it is not right. It is not true from what I understand in learning. And by the end of this, I'll probably have some kind of law degree, or maybe someone will give me an honorary law degree. But what I'm understanding is that Fort Bliss is not immune to the judicial system, to doing oversight on a military base. And this is where we were asking for help from Veronica Escobar. We were asking for help from the Department of Justice. Remember, very early on, if you remember, if you have been with us for that long, we requested that they do an extra oversight into our son's case. We requested the Department of Justice from Merrick Garland to do that. So they do have the ability, they do have the jurisdiction. And we asked for Ted Cruz. We were asking anybody that had the power to have oversight over Fort Bliss to look into Richard's case. We didn't realize how important the DA's office there in El Paso is. And it's very, very important. That's why it's been usurped. Because it has that much power. So make sure, and this is, just for all people listening out there, that you absolutely know who your DA is, that you've done a background check on them, that you know what their qualifications are, and also your medical examiner in your area, in your local area, because those are I believe, the two most powerful positions in order to prosecute crime. You need to have those positions, people in those positions, to make sure you have a thriving society and not a criminal society. Because if they're usurped or held illegally, like what's going on in El Paso right now, then you have a huge criminal problem. And you would think that the military, that the Pentagon would also intervene in this. So, because it absolutely spills in. I think it's part of Fort Bliss. Because with these brown tip bullets and the M4s being part of the Walmart mass shooting, from our intelligence that we received, that means that there was some corruption on Fort Bliss. And, please God, don't let those weapons have been obtained from Fort Bliss. But that's a real possibility. And you have to ask yourself, why did the federal government do a plea deal with Patrick Crusius so that the evidence could not be seen, could not be heard, that there was no court case, that it was just a plea deal? And of course, there was no death penalty because of the plea deal. And now we have 5 years with the state case of them. And this is not me saying it. This is many, many people. And I think one of the most important people that exposed the political agenda that's in the DA's office was Loretta Lynn Hewitt. That they weren't interested in justice, they were interested in politics. And I think that article, and I think it was in El Paso Inc., is very, very important. Very, very important. We have it in PDF. We have that absolutely as part of our son's case because it's such an important article. They can't even tell the family the truth. No, they can't even tell the family the truth. And we're not the only family, right? They've done this to many. And so, this is just what they did to Richard is just so, so horrible that, of course, that spilled into what they've done to us. Because this is not just Richard's case. This is a violation of our rights too. And, so what I'm saying is that if you allow these crimes to go on, they spill out, they domino effect and hurt other people. And so that's why we're working very, very hard to get justice so that we could squash this this terrible effect that has just been hell, absolute hell. Hello, Mrs. Halliday. Thank you so much, Ruth. Anicia Coulter Ebby. It's a federal installation and a military personnel involved. FBI would be the only other agency. Why would you trust the state when it is an alleged that all entities are corrupt? I want to make this very, very clear. We went in asking them, knowing that Richard had been murdered, that something terrible had happened. But we told them we want a win-win. Please tell us what happened to our son. And, no, and we wouldn't go. They could have given us a non-disclosure agreement. We could have got accountability for the murderers, and we believe, the prime suspects are Dallas Hart, Leilani Hart, and Tavita Nusa. Also, Jay Paulin. I think he had a big hand in it. There's others. But they reacted by attacking Richard again. Okay, in the Stars and Stripes. That's how they reacted to us saying that we wanted a win-win. And, so the message was very, very clear. But from the very beginning, and, I might have been in my frustration because this is so horrible what they did to Richard. This is my son. But absolutely, Mealy is dirty. McConville's dirty. Garrett's dirty. Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr., dirty. Marlon Soto, dirty. Tavita Nusa, dirty. Very dirty. Bradford Bugado, dirty. Absolutely dirty hands on this one. And the DA's office, and of course, uh, the medical examiner's office, and Judge Robert Shook. He hightailed it out of there. As soon as the spotlight was on him, as soon as we had discovered who he was and asked questions, simple questions, he hightailed it out of there. Eric Cohen, the general counsel there for the Department of State in Juarez. But I want to make this very clear. There are very good people in our agencies. They're getting retaliated against. Look what's happening to President Trump. And it's very clear that Curtis Cox at the DA office and Yvonne Rosales, they were trying to do the right thing. I'm not saying they were perfect. None of us are perfect, but they were trying to do the right thing. And the mandates from the COVID shutdown and all that were very difficult. But they were lied about. And when you've done the research like we've done the research, they were absolutely lied about, and they were retaliated against. Look at a whistleblower in our case, totally retaliated against. A judicial officer, a very good judicial officer. I've researched, and he was absolutely smeared. Continues to be smeared. So, we have a wonderful constitution. Texas, I know Texas. I grew up in Texas, has a wonderful constitution, and it needs to be abided by. And it provides us with these agencies, these government institutions. And we have usurpers. We have betrayers in uniform. And they need to be stripped out of our uniforms. There are good people that can wear those uniforms and be true, try to aim to be as true as possible to their oath of office. But right now, we have betrayers, treasonous criminals in our beautiful uniforms. Donna Martin needs to be arrested. Sean Bernabe needs to be arrested. Michael Garrett needs to be arrested. Clem Coward needs to be arrested. James McConville needs to be arrested. Mealy needs to be arrested. I'm not saying that the whole rank of general should be abolished. I'm saying that these that have put on the uniform and betrayed us and have profited off of their criminal activities need to be arrested, and they need to be stripped of any sign of our beautiful uniform that represents, with the flag on the shoulder, that represents our Constitution, our laws of this land, for the freedom of the people, by the people, for the people. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the people of El Paso don't deserve to have representation. I'm saying that Veronica Escobar needs to be held accountable for her betrayal of her constituents. She has absolutely betrayed her constituents. And I don't have kind words for Governor Greg Abbott either. I feel that he has also betrayed the men in uniform at the border, El Pasoans at the border, and he has all this pretty talk, but he absolutely is a political creature. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting. Because he could have helped so many, us and so many. And he appointed Bill Hicks. What? Have you seen his qualifications? They make you throw up. They make you sick. That a district attorney office in El Paso that is so important because it's right there in borderland. So important because it's so multicultural there. Very multicultural. That's the beauty of El Paso. It is a historic, ancient city right there on the border. I know it very well. I was born at White Sands Missile Range. It's multicultural. My parents belonged to the German American Club there. We used to go over to Mexico all the time and enjoy their culture. It was beautiful. And it has become the highway of trafficking now and hurts so many. And that area deserves to have a governor pick in times of need. Really, it's supposed to be an elected position. The El Pasoans picked Yvonne Rosales. They picked her. And she was attacked. And she, they go, oh, well, she resigned. Let me tell you, I think that was under duress. Absolute duress. And I'm not just picking that out of the air, too. It's with investigation. It's with open records, what they did to her. And I believe right now, according to the law, she is the true district attorney still. And so that's why I say Bill Hicks is a usurper in that office. It's not the office that I think that needs to be taken down. I think that Bill Hicks needs to be taken away in handcuffs. But to the main point, Governor Abbott appointed him. And he has terrible qualifications. It is so ugly. So ugly. Why couldn't Governor Abbott, if he wanted the best for El Paso, the borderland, the ancient city, the multicultural city, why didn't he take out time and pick one of our best? Because we have so many lawyers with a stellar CV to put in that position as district attorney. Or why didn't he fight for Yvonne Rosales? So any way you look at it, I think Greg Abbott needs to act immediately for the people of El Paso. And what does this have to do with us? Well, Richard is a capital murder case. It's a capital murder case. And I don't think it's going to happen there in El Paso because it's a mess. The judicial system is broken there. And so we have enough. We have enough hard evidence. We have enough intelligence. We have enough irregularities. We have enough circumstantial evidence to identify the crime, identify the criminals. We've documented it. We've documented it to so many agencies and institutions that Richard is a capital murder case. And it will need to be prosecuted. It needs to be prosecuted. And that's why this is important. And the medical examiner who handled the remains of the victims of the Walmart case, and we are told that he handled the remains of our son. It's very troubling that it was done by someone not qualified, again, not qualified to hold that position. And now we're told even that he's illegal here under false visa, violated his visa. FBI, we have them involved. Remember the FBI, Nadal Baim, saying that Richard's remains were found in Mexico. Shh. And then we find out that he absolutely is connected to the FBI, that he's absolutely connected to the 32nd ADCOM, to the G3 and the 32nd ADCOM, and that there's more conflicts of interest. And then it led to us discovering that the supervisory director, Jesus Nieto, is up to no good. And so, then we have to report that. The reporting of all of these position holders is day in and day out. And I think it's grabbing hold because Judge Robert Shook got up and hightailed it out of there. FBI Director Downey, he got up and hightailed it out of there, or got removed. Of course, Tavita Nusa was removed. Of course, Marlon Soto was demoted and got out of the military. Of course, Dallas Hart was removed, got out of the military. And these are all unscheduled departures, okay? Because they worked very hard to have those people there. And now we have Counsel Cohen up and being removed. No fanfare, nothing in the news out of the Department of State. And he is a very big player to giving visas to the officials. We had some problems with him, with the AG there. This all happened because in Mexico they have their own people in positions that they're trying to figure out who's who, right? And the AG there in Juarez tampered with our son's missing persons report. And we were using General Counsel Cohen to look into that for us. Who is going to the AG's office and targeting our son's case and tampering with our missing persons report for our son? And then you have Bob Moore going, oh, nothing happened, nothing to see here. Wait a minute. Why would that even happen if there wasn't a cover-up going on? And then why is Counsel Cohen just leaving and not even sending out to us, or maybe to others too, that he's working cases for, to notify us and give us a contact for the next person? There's something rotten going on. And, the system needs to be flushed. That's what we think needs to happen. The system needs to be flushed. We need to figure out who's who. I too lost a son. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry to hear that. It's hell. A couple of years ago, and I know the pain of losing a child. There won't be complete closure. That's very, very true. Continued, I would like to see the case resolved, but with facts and competence. Absolutely, you came to the right place, because we're the place of facts and competence. If you wish, I would be willing to talk directly with you via messenger or telephone. I am retired from the U.S. military and I have studied what is available. Yeah, it's all out there. Well, not all of it is out there because of all the letters and letters and letters, and being part of the SB4 now. Also, the complaints that we have put out there, we haven't really made a lot of those public because, those need to all be worked out and by the officials. They need to decide if the complaints and the evidence that we're giving them has, weight, which they do. Then they need to act. And so our question was, we have plenty of evidence with Leilani Hart. Why hasn't she been arrested? Because that's very clear, and many others. And now we have learned that behind the scenes, our intel is telling us that there were plea deals being made, plea agreements, immunity agreements being made behind the scenes. And, that explains some other things that we know. And what that tells you is more evidence that Richard was murdered, more evidence that there was a cover-up going on, more, and the information that we received from the CAO today is also more evidence of Richard being murdered. Because there's only so many possibilities, and you have to follow the legal ramifications from those possibilities. And the legal route that the CAO is taking us down is Richard was murdered. Okay? I'm just telling you that. The way, this notice of death, the paperwork we're getting, the communication that we're getting, this is the file, the casualty file. There's only one possibility that is all the pieces tell the story of, and that is that Richard was violently murdered for being a whistleblower, for standing up to the crime there on Fort Bliss. And he was retaliated against because he has no legal problems, and he has no health problems. See, that's another thing, is when we were there in El Paso, because of what Jay Paulin was spreading around, and he needs to be arrested for that. I mean, oh my gosh. Um, and when we received the information, Richard has no health problems. Just like the car thing was a lie. They were spreading a narrative out there to mislead the public. But the paperwork, the evidence, even them trying to tamper with it, they were not successful in trying to cover the truth. And the truth is, Richard has no legal problems. He has no health problems. He was a whistleblower. He was a man of faith and character, and he stood up to the evil things that were going on there, and they murdered him for it. They retaliated first against him. They tried to frame him. They couldn't even do that because he was so beautiful. He was so beautiful in that video, and that's why they couldn't give us that video, because he was so together, and he was so beautiful, and he was so respectful. And it also shows that there was no real test done. You know, gosh, y'all, you have to get past the emotions, and for me, that's very, very hard. And so I'm watching this video, and I'm just like, so emotional. But you have to go back and you have to look at it forensically. And that's, that's what we've had to do. We've had to play the roles that our law enforcement and our judicial system and our media system need to do, and they're failing to do. So the system, the whole thing needs to be flushed. That's what I'm saying. So thank you, Ronaldo, for being interested in this. It's out there, and I value everybody's opinion. Maybe not Leilani's, maybe not James Hart. No, I don't know, but surely not Mario's or Marlon's. Yeah, no, no. Not Bill Hicks, not Bob Moore. But anyway, but I do listen, and we do listen. We are Team Find Richard Halliday. And it's an amazing team. Absolutely amazing team. And this is also why it is really moving forward quickly, getting answers, because our team is so amazing. Remember that, our family has over 76 years of combined military experience, service, right? Service. And, we have a long history with the military, and that has, we have a lot of good friends, all over the world with all kinds of experience. And then to have the connection that we have with El Paso, both my husband and I do, right? Both of us have that experience. That has really helped. And of course, then our faith community is amazing. And they just have a lot of talent. so much talent, so much prayer, and so much talent. So it is moving forward, and I'm just very, very grateful for everyone's help. Thank you so much. I will be back tomorrow, God willing. And yeah, please share these live streams, share the information that we put out there. Um, that is very, very helpful. And like and comment. Okay, everyone. God bless, and see you